What is up, everyone? Fresh off our Samoa and England previews for the World Cup, we're now going to be jumping into France and Greece in one video here. So, two lower tier nations when it comes to expectations for this World Cup, but two teams that have a lot to play for. Miles, I'm going to jump right into the team list here. First one we're going to go with is France, and I'm keen to hear your thoughts on how they're going to shape up for this World Cup.
Yeah, look, this France team is no joke. If you ask any diehard Super League fan, a lot of Catalans Dragons in there. I think there's upwards of 10 players just from the Catalans Dragons in there. So you know that they've got a lot of experience on the second tier kind of competition front. And Catalans have been a good team for years. One noticeable admission for me, and this is potentially going to break the hearts of France fans and their hopes of making it a little bit further in this World Cup than they did the last, is the admission of Theo Fages, the captain. He's a guy that just has a ton of Super League experience. He's played for St Helens. He now plays for Huddersfield Giants, and he's only 28 years old. He's played over 200 games at that level. But he's also the captain of this French team, and now the captaincy falls to Ben Garcia. It's a bit tough as well. Theo Fages is also one of the best halves in the Super League. So, you know, trying to replace that production is going to be tough. But Morgan Ascari is a good player. He backs up Sam Tompkins, funnily enough, at Salford Red Devils. So he doesn't get much game time, unfortunately, but they've got a lot of raps on him. And another guy that catches my eye there is Samiasoni Lungi. Kind of ditched his former nation Tonga to play for France. So obviously maybe thought he wasn't going to get selected. So he's decided to play for France after, you know, living over there for so long now. So he's allowed to do that. And he's really the only one with any NRL experience in this side. So, you know, quite an interesting little team that they've got here. And the two Maxines on the bench at this point, that I feel like they're going to provide a real sting. They're a bit of a 1-2 punch prop duo as well. So, yeah, I just think this is the best team that they could have selected with their current landscape of rugby league. No real, you know, standout players in NRL to be able to select from. But what are your thoughts on this French team? Few new faces.
Yeah, I've heard good things about French rugby league developing. Look, they've had some better teams historically, but I've heard good things about the grassroots. So they could be a team that's sort of built up over the next few years. My feel on it is, I saw a stat, it's 20 of the 24 players in this squad came from either Toulouse or Catalans. So while I'm an NRL guy, I don't really know much about French rugby league. And while I don't recognize a lot of the names here, what I'm thinking about is the fact that they're going to come in with a lot of cohesion. So you'll see teams, well, it's more of an American sport thing, but super teams are formed, right? And there's no cohesion, and they perform terribly, and they get destroyed by teams that are less talented on paper, but know each other, know how to play with each other, and come and just make it work from the get-go. So how often do we see in World Cups, right? A team where there's an alpha at halfback, there's an alpha at hooker, there's an alpha at 5'8", there's an alpha at, fullback there, and they don't sort of gel because they're not playing the right roles. I think with this team, considering the fact that they've played together so much or played against each other so much, they're going to know each other really well from the jump. They're going to know who's going to be backing them up for the offload. They're going to be able to throw those little no-look passes and know who they can back in defense, who they have to cover for. I think they're going to punch above their weight, is my point here. I don't see them beating Samoa or England just because they're such good teams, and even Greece, actually, just on paper, is a better team. But the French cohesion here could come into play, and they could just sort of make it work. That's all I've got to say, really, about them.
You're right. I think it helps not being a team of renegades or having one star player that you can throw the ball to. Whereas I think, you know, some people try to step up into that role and try to own that role purely because they won State of Origin or they won, the Premiership. They can just say, "Oh, it's my time. Give me the ball." Whereas I don't see this with that team. It's going to be, as you said, a group effort, and not having someone who's so headstrong could really work in their favour, especially against teams like Greece and Samoa, where that there's a bunch of guys in there that could try to put on their big boy pants and say, "I'm the leader of this team." This French team is not to be underrated. They've got a lot of guys who play football at a very high level, so don't sleep on them. But I do agree with you in saying that England and Samoa have just got such superior teams at this point. Like it's not really a contest, but I'm looking forward to seeing France perform, because I think that they've got a few underrated players, and they're underrated even by their own teams that they play for.
That's a nice segue though to Greece, right? Because I was going to ask you, who do you think is going to win out of France and Greece? They play first up in this tournament as well. But I think we're better off just going straight into Greece. So I look at this team. I've been telling this story about a few of the teams. I was talking about Joseph Sawali in this way. I think the same kind of story applies to Lachlan Ilias. So he's had one full season in the NRL. He was hopeless to start the year, and he was really good to finish the year. So he's kind of completed that arc, and now here's a chance for him to come out and say, "Look, I'm the guy with NRL experience. I've got that finals caliber team experience too." Can he step it up? Can he lead this team around? And does he have the talent across the team to, I guess, divert to those guys, divert to some of those explosive forwards or other players here? Do you think Ilias can be that guy in this tournament?
He's really stepped up down the stretch, hasn't he? I mean, to get the Rabbitohs from where they were, they finished 7th. Normally the 7th place team is going to be one and done. You're out of the finals. He got them all the way to a preliminary final, took a lot of pressure off Cody Walker, and that's what Cody Walker needs. He started to play the role that they need him to play. In this Greece team, he's the guy. So there is a lot of pressure that comes with that, and it's different to the way he would play with the Rabbitohs. He hasn't got that go-to player to go to and just make a play.
Yeah, there's no Latrell. There's no Cody Walker.
Yeah.
I'll just chuck it out the back and we'll see what happens. Oh, it's a try assist because Latrell beat 4 guys. Yeah, it's not going to happen
At the moment, it's like he's got to do everything, and he's almost got to be Andrew Johns. He's got to be that Latrell, that Cody for them. And I just don't. At this point in his career, he's very young. I don't see him as that kind of player.
But we've seen guys take this chance and make that leap, though. So I remember watching Mitch Moses in his younger days when he was playing with Lebanon, right? Mm-hmm. And he came in and he was the guy on that team, and he would chip and chase, score some tries, really lead them to wins against the lower tier nations. Like, they weren't threatening, the top sides, but he took those chances, and I think that made him a better 7. And I think Ilias, even if they don't, go through to the second round of the World Cup, if they can sort of turn up and play a good brand of footy and he can really lead the team, it's going to be a great development thing for him. And potentially, they blood a few more guys. They've got some pretty good young forwards coming through as well. A lot of these guys are juniors in NRL. A few of these guys maybe take the leap. They come into the next tournament with a good 7, some good forwards, maybe a couple more outside backs as well that have some NRL experience, and they become one of those sort of tier 3 teams that can kind of get it done.
Yeah, I think as well, it can't be underrated the amount of experience that this Greece team has at the lower levels of the Australian game. Chase Robinson there at number 1. He is a gun at Jersey flag level, and he hasn't made his New South Wales Cup debut yet, but I do think he is going to get there at this point in time in his career. Potentially next year.
Is he young?
Young guy. He's 22 years old, he's got to get there. But I think with Latrell obviously in the NRL team, it's hard to get up for anyone. So he's got a shot there, and I also think that the two Billies, Billy Sikaris and Billy Margulis, have always flirted with the idea of playing NRL. They've had a bit of a taste, both of them, and especially Billy Margulius when he was a bit younger was touted as the next great lock in our game, and he's kind of fallen off a little bit in recent seasons. There's not much hype around him. That Sharks pack though is so hard to break, so I think he can be forgiven for that. Whereas Sikarist just got his debut this year as well for the Dogs. So I think that they're starting to become these players, and it's quite a young Greek team when you think about it, with their 1, 7, and two front rowers and their lock all under 22. Like it's tough, but they're going to give it a red hot crack, and it's good to see them finally in the World Cup. It's going to be a good debut for them.
That's exciting for them though, right? Because if you come in, you make the World Cup with this team. It's a good team. It's a young team. When they're all 26 or 25 in 3 years' time, because this is delayed World Cup, they could take the next step. They could be anything really. And no, I'm excited. I mean, so when we talk about France up against Greece, we're talking about a team that has the cohesion and knows what they are, and there's a lot more experience in that team, but they don't really have the upside. Whereas Greece seems to have a bit of that upside, but probably a bit of downside with the lack of experience as well, and not as cohesive, haven't played together as much, probably a bit more talent though. So what wins out? It's a coin toss. I think Greece, just looking at this team, and I just have a feeling they'll get up for it. But what's your feel?
I think it helps having a few, as we were talking about with France, they've got a few players that play with each other, know what each other's going to do at times. And I think having Peter Manuzelis in there at 9 is really going to help Lachlan Ilias, because he plays for the Rabbitohs, has played a few games with him, and they should know each other pretty well. They're both young, Greek fellas. So I think they're going to form a good 9-7 combination. It's about whether the captain Jordan Meads is going to step up as well, and lead this team to a good start in the World Cup. And I think they're going to be the punching bag of, I think, Pool A, unfortunately, just because of their inexperience and it's their first time at this World Cup. So I think they might give France a run for their money. But other than that, I see Samoa and England really, putting the foot down on them, and it could get ugly. But
come on, we both watched the Mighty Ducks. Sort of a series there, right? Is there any way you see them getting an upset?
Oh, look, I see it as a bit of a, when in the second movie in Mighty Ducks, when the Mighty Ducks play Trinidad and Tobago, the Mighty Ducks are winning 17-0, and then Trinidad and Tobago score, and it's the best thing in the world. So, hopefully England are winning 40-something nil, and then Greece, they score, and they have the last save. So,
I would love that. I hope they get some fans across too. It's not too far for them to travel. Well, both of these teams we're talking about, it's not far to travel. They can get some fans down there. They get really into it. Like with Australia when we're at a World Cup for soccer, it's the same kind of vibe. You're probably not going to win, but you're happy to be there. Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. I like that. Sort of moving the goalposts a bit. Your win is competing and having a good time, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. All right, everyone. Well, that's France and Greece from us. Our next up videos are going to be going into Pool B. So we'll have Australia individual video, Fiji individual video as well, and then Scotland and Italy combined video here too. So same format as Pool A. If you haven't seen England or Samoa, those will be suggested videos on the Casual Athlete too. We'll see you soon.